Kaitiaki Advisory Group meeting, Wednesday the 12th of March 2025. Okay, just some housekeeping before we start. In terms of health and safety, if the alarm sounds, please make your way to the nearest exit, one on the right, one on the left. The assembly point is across the road. This is not right. Regional Council is too far away. It's obviously out in the car park. Please be aware that the meeting is being live streamed and the video will be publicly available on YouTube. Members, could you please remember to speak clearly into your microphones and only one speaker at a time. So could we all turn off our mobiles, please? And before we start our hui, kehia koe mokura? Aroha mai. Chris. Tēnā koa kata koe te mahi te whakaraki awha. Thank you. Let me turn this on.
Tēnā tātou. Tēnā tātou. O tira tēnā koe kei te tūru whakahaere o tēnei o ngā komiti nau I tukura te wāhanga kia te whakatūwhera tō tātou hui I runga I te karakia anō reira kei noi tātou. He honore he kororia ki te atua, he maungarongo ki te whenua, he whakaaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. E pā tēnei mātou e koropeko nei I mui I tō aroaro me te inoi atu ki a koe kia tau manakitanga ki runga ki tēnei whiriwhiringa kōrero o tātou. Anō hoki ka whakaaro atu ki a rātou e noho ana I raro I te kapua pauri I tēnei wā. Rātou e noho māwiwi ana kei roto I ngā whare hohipera, ngā whare maiangiangi. Rātou anō hoki e noho ana I raro I te māwiwitanga. Rātou anō hoki e noho I raro I te rawa kore. Me te whakaaro kia piki te kaha te ora te māramatanga ki runga ki a rātou. Ako koe te tīmatanga te otinga o ngā mea katoa, kloria ki tō ingoa tapu. Amine.
Kia ora. My call for any apologies. I have received apologies from Western Bay District Council, Mayor James Denia and Deputy Mayor John Scrimmager. Are there any further apologies? I have apologies for lateness from Waiari.
Most likely Helen Bill.
And Helen Bill? Okay. May I have a mover and a seconder to accept the apologies, please? Councillor Baker, Councillor Morris. Thank you. And then there's public forum. I haven't received anything. Okay, moving along. Confidential nil, change of order of business nil, declaration of conflicts of interest. There's no. Okay, here we go. Number 7, calling for appointment of co-chair to the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group. Are there any questions? Is there any further discussion? Yes.
Madam Chair, may I nominate somebody?
Sure.
I nominate Councillor Tapu Bacon.
Okay. We got a seconder. Okay.
Yep.
There was one other, but as we are aware, Western Bay are not here today. Mayor James Denia, he actually recommended that Deputy Mayor John Scrimmager be appointed as co-chair. They're not here today, so it's a little bit difficult to have that conversation given they're not here, but happy to have a discussion given the other nomination. Yes.
Tauranga City Council is committed to the partnership we have with mana whenua around the Waiari, and whilst we're extracting water from the awa, we also want to support mana whenua in their role as Kaitiaki and acknowledge that it is within the Western Bay and Plenty District Council rohe, but Tauranga City Council, of course, is a consent holder and has invested in the water plant, and we don't want to get in the way of Western Bay of Plenty District Council's relationship with mana whenua there, but we also would value a strong relationship, and personal view is that Councillor Baker's appointment, if it's accepted by the committee, is a strong signal from Tauranga City Council that we really, really value this committee and the partnership.
Councillor Baker.
Nau ore te whare. Tūtai e tautoko ana ngā mihi kua whāriki here i tēnei ata. Kia tātou katoa ko tai mai i tēnei ata. Mai a mātou noho ana ki runga kia wanga i tēnei i wēnei tēpū tainua ki ngā kaimahi o tēnā o ngā kaunihira. Mihi ana kia tātou katoa. I appreciate the nominations, and I'd be more than happy to, and privileged in fact, to take on the role and the responsibility. It's unfortunate that Western Bay aren't here, but also quite telling, considering the, I guess the email threads that were coming through and their intent to sit in the position, but the fact that they're not here says a lot to me than emails, words on a bit of an email. I think also the fact that we've got the rest of the country has an election, local body election cycle this year. Yes. The reality is there's uncertainty as to who might be in Western Bay come the end of August or whenever that may be. So having a, in addition to what Councillor Morris has said, I think having someone from Tauranga City Council sit there will provide stability and certainty, and the ability to really meaningfully foster that relationship over a sustained period of time. Touch wood without the cause of any kind of major disruptions or commission. Just jokes. But a commission. Major disruptions getting in the way of that. And to echo Steve's kōrero, the partnership matters to us as a council, but also to me personally as well. And I'll do what I can to ensure that we're advancing our collective aspirations as well as the aspirations of mana whenua. And that's the ally that you'll have sitting alongside you and around this table should those around should we accept the my nomination as the co-chair today. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. Any further discussion? Okay.
Yes, you can say, so it should be, yes, all those in favour, say aye.
For who?
For Councillor Baker. If that's been nominated, we haven't got a seconder, I understand, from the Deputy Mayor.
No, we don't.
No, so you can, just all those in favour of Councillor Baker being appointed.
Okay. Thank you. Kia ora kōrua. Thank you for your discussion points. Because we didn't receive a seconder for the Western Bay nomination, I'm going to call for all those in favour of Councillor Hautapu Baker being co-chair of the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against say Carl.
I'll abstain.
Can you note that, please? I declare the motion carried. Hara mai he hoa.
That's a great one.
Thank you.
Mistake.
Can you do this way? No. Item 8.2, I guess the Western Bay District Council report for March 2025, sorry. The there needs to be some amendments because the author is definitely not Anahira Dinsdale. I'm pretty sure that's Chris Napier. And Chris, kia ora e hoa. Aroa mai, Jason.
Tēnā nō tātou. Tuatahi aki te mihi ki a koe e te rangatira nau i eke ki tērā o ngā tūru, te āwhina i tō tātou kai whakahaere o tēnei o ngā rōpū. Me te mihi anō hoki ki o whakaro he nui, he mea whakahirahira te hono kei wānga nui o tēnei rōpū me ngā iwi o tō tātou rohi o te aroa, no reira tēnei kamihi atu. Kia koe o tira ki a tātou. I was saying to Jason this morning, we're what in Māori we would call tono tono. We're here to do what we're told and acknowledge that our mayor and deputy mayor are unable to be here this morning. We have at the moment annual plan meetings happening and some significant items on the agenda. Hope to see them at the next one and we can carry on the mahi that's been progressed through the advisory group. But I think just for me, wanted to take the opportunity this morning. So my name's Chris Napier, I'm the Kaupapa Māori Manager at Western Bay and Plenty District Council and have been working alongside our iwi at Te Aroa, not only through the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group, but just in terms of the things that we progress at Western Bay for a number of years now. And what we noticed with this group in particular is that there's a lot of things that happen across the different things that we do at council, and we felt we weren't doing a very good job internally of talking to each other about those different things. And I think I've mentioned in the report, Madam Chair, which I'll just take as read, and your point that I'm not Anahira. Kia ora, Anahira. I hear she's not well, so hopefully she gets better. Now I've lost my train of thought. Go back to the point that we weren't very well connected around the different streams of work that were happening in council, and so we've established an internal working group to bring that all together. And I think in being able to know what each one is doing and how that relates to the things that are being progressed through those different groups, then we can make sure that we're not doubling effort or doing things that go in different directions to what each of those groups have decided are important to them. So in the report, the example was given, we've got the Te Marua Kaituna, we've got the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group, we've got our individual tangata whenua forums, and through each of those different groups there's, for example, the Kaituna action plan, there's the cultural recognition framework that's been progressed through this group, and our forums have their own strategic plans, and a number of the actions in those are actually quite similar, and we wanted to make sure that we were just being efficient with how we use our time and our energy to support those things. So that's what Jason is here to talk to today, because he had been leading a project that started with an action that came out of Te Marua Kaituna to look at access for iwi along the Kaituna and the Waiari, and that aligned with one of the 6 outcomes that iwi were wanting to achieve through the cultural recognition framework. So it makes sense that we bring those things together. So I just wanted to give the advisory group the update that that's where we are as an organisation, to give some surety that we're starting to work together around these things internally to make sure that we're aligned and there's efficiency in there. And before Jason gets into reporting on one of the key actions, an opportunity for any questions around any of that from the members. No questions? Good.
Morena. So I'm Jason Cramer. I'm the Senior Recreation Planner at the Western Bay Plenty District Council, and one of my main roles at the Western Bay is run a lot of community consultation and development of concept plans, reviewing reserve management plans, and just really that high level kind of strategic planning is my level of expertise. And I was brought into this project probably about 12 to 18 months ago through the work that Alva Conroy, we commissioned Alva Conroy to undertake a feasibility study for river access around the Kaituna, and that's, as Chris mentioned, kind of merged into one of the key areas for Waiari Kaitiaki advisory group. And the Waiari Bridge area, or the rest area, was identified as one of the higher priority areas to develop to improve that river access. And then through conversations with councillors, internal conversations, we were able to secure some long-term plan funding to support developing that area. And I'm aware that it was around about 12 months ago, give or take a few months, I think, I sat in this chair talking about some of these quick wins, some operational matters that we could achieve without the requirement of a significant amount of investment. And I'll speak to those in just a moment. But we haven't, the needle hasn't moved a great deal in terms of achievements, but what has happened, or what we've been able to achieve, is really fine-tune those internal conversations and work together to identify, well, is it just me that needs to lead this project, or do we have some more key staff, Western Bay staff, that actually need to take that lead in that operational sense? And I can just support them through that planning stage, but they have the expertise, those relationships on the ground, and the ability to procure concept plan, so landscape architects, engineers, those sorts of things to produce those bigger items. And would have loved for those conversations to have taken place at least 6 months ago, but it is what it is. We're here now, and we do have some short-term goals that we're wanting to achieve. In the reports, I think it's paragraph 9, got those priorities listed there, and that was an outcome of the feasibility study that Alva put together for us. Interim safety measures along the access at the road bridge. So those sort of safety measures that will be around how do we make it safer for people to actually enter the river when they want to go for a swim. And we do have, late last year, we were able to secure just trying to find a bylaw authority from regional council to say we can put up a temporary measure to improve that physical access. That at the moment has not been completed, hasn't started, therefore can't complete, but we do have until June this year, and our aim is to make sure that our reserves team can actually achieve that, preferably in the next month. It's just around who's going to project manage that particular site, but as it's sounding like, I'll be paying a lot closer attention to that, the implementation of that site. In terms of concept plan development, it's kind of been stop-starts. We do the attachments to this. Attachment 1 to that report titled the Waiari Bridge Area Restoration Draft Concept Plan. It's not a proper concept plan, it's more just an indicative plan on what we're thinking could be developed at this stage. So that will need to be refined with landscape architects. We'll go through procurements for a bridge design as well. Part of the challenge in kind of going round in almost a circle of death is, where do we start? Do we design a bridge, or do we get a concept plan? Do we do geotech testing? How do we start? And it's come back to, let's do both simultaneously. So looking at landscape architect to fully design the area, but then also procurement for a bridge design and identify the best places. And those conversations before we go through that procurement process, we really need to have a discussion with our Waiari operations group, make sure that we're comfortable with the information that goes into that request for a quote, and whether or not this is the direction that that the operations group thinks that we should be going. And ultimately, we've got a whole lot of funding that is there available, ring fence to be spent on this project. And so we want to make sure that we've got to spend the money, but B, we're not wasting money by going around in circles and like I said, just wasting money, making the wrong decisions around the area. So the immediate next steps for us is looking to get those interim safety measures in place that we were wanting to get in place over the summer. Unfortunately, we did fail on that, but get them in place now, so that at least between now and this coming summer, there will be that access restored, and then go through that procurement process, have that discussion with the working group to make sure that we are actually, that this is actually where we want to be going. I could probably talk all morning about this, but I will stop there, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions, because I'm sure there'll be a couple.
Councillor Tauranga.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just acknowledge I'm an alternate here. The reason I want to speak is that I was at the last meeting and other members weren't. It concerns me greatly that at the last meeting we had, Mayor Denia indicated that the pleas from the Chair about getting something done for the summer to make it safer for the kids to be swimming in the river was going to happen. And here we are at the end of summer and we're saying it'll be next summer. I don't know how serious Western Bay are taking this, but that's probably just through good luck rather than good management that we haven't had a major incident there. So I think we need to take this more serious to actually get something happening.
I do have an interest, and I think it's not about just bricks and mortar. It's a bigger plan where we need to collaborate and take global warming seriously. It's here now. It's not waiting for an ambulance to drop over the cliff. With the planning of global warming should be done now, and the Waiari is an important part about it. And I note there's the if you like, there's customary rights. I see it in actually four ways. There's your social, cultural, and environmental is highly important before you even start talking economics. Because if you look up you had a shopping lift that protects the social side, the cultural side, and the environmental side, then you have every opportunity to capitalise and use it for economic benefits. But if you jump to economic benefits first, there are likely to be casualties on the way. So it's riparians and the protection of the fish, the birds, the trees, and the creeks that comes before bricks and mortar. I just wanted to outline that thing, how important it is in terms of looking at a quadruple bottom line before doing project by project by project. It's only heading towards the ambulance in the bottom of the cliff.
Any further discussions? Any further questions for?
The question is that I would like to see that as a priority as to in your planning documents.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I guess the takeaway is that we're wanting to see results. Definitely this summer, and look forward to the work that's going to happen in the next 6 months. Thank you both. I guess that the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group A receives the report, Western Bay Plenty District Council report for March 2025. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. I declare the motion carried. Okay, 8.3. Thank you, Peter.
Morena. Can you hear me? I did have normally I just present the paper as being read, but I did prepare a few PowerPoints just to, there's some new members around the table, and I thought it would be good just to explain some of the graphs that we show for the operational flows, and just take you through that. So I'm not sure where that presentation is. So just while we're waiting for that, by way of consent, one of the things that we need to report on is the stream flows and what we abstract on a regular basis. We also have a piece in there about undertaking biological monitoring, which was undertaken in February. The report is not ready as yet. I have mentioned it in the report that it's in preparation. We'll bring that to the next Kaitiaki Advisory Group. And the other thing that we do is once every 3 years we update our water conservation plan. That was last done in I think it was 23. So we'll do that again, update that next year. But those are the primary things that we are required to report on from an operational point of view. Yeah, if we could just go to the first slide, please. So there's three graphs in here. I'll just explain each one. They each serve a different purpose. This particular one shows it's the monthly average flows and the minimum flows from starting in January 2001 through to current. I've specifically not shown the maximum flows on this one because it just dilutes the impact of the graph. But what it does show is the orange line is the minimum flow for any month during that period, and then the blue line is the average flow. You can see it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride the last few years. During 2019 through to 2022, we had that 3 years of very low rainfall, and you can see how the graph tapered off. That was followed by a year of excessive rain. In fact, we had double the average annual rainfall during that period. And you can see how quickly the stream flows climbed to a high that we've never seen before. But since about December 2023, those flows have been again declining, and the trend is coming down fairly sharply. So currently we're still above the long-term average flow for the stream. That's indicated by that blue line that sits at about 4,300 litres a second. The yellow line on the graph shows 2,800, and that's the line, that's the threshold that we use to, as part of the consent conditions, we would need to notify Tapawika Iwi Authority if we hit that line. And then the purple line at the bottom is what we've agreed with Regional Council to be the minimum flow that would be acceptable in the stream. So you can see on average we're above that yellow line, and it's been a fairly good. But yeah, so it just puts into context, I think, Maru, your point about climate change is fairly obvious in those last number of years that we've seen how dramatically the flows have changed. We could go into the second graph, please. So this is a graph showing the actual maximums included in the graph, and it highlights how it makes no sense of the average and minimums. You can see two particular big spikes that we had. That was in January and May of 2022, when we had the Auckland long weekend flooding, followed by one of the cyclone events. Just to put that into context, that average stream flow is 4,300 litres a second. For the January event, it was 430,000 litres a second. And probably just to put that into perspective, that would fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in 6 seconds. So yeah, it's a real extreme event. It caused us quite a bit of damage not damage, but flood-related siltation at our intake works. And yeah, it was pretty dramatic to see how quickly that stream came up at the time. And then the third slide, please. This is a slightly different perspective. It shows our daily flows for the stream. So it's actually showing the actual daily amount in litres that's going through. Historically, the blue line is just what was in the stream itself. The little red line at the bottom is how much we're removing in terms of take. And so the orange line represents what's left. And what's total and what's left is pretty much there's not much difference. We're taking about 100 litres a second for our water treatment process. So it just, again, puts it in context of what we're currently doing from an operational point of view. And once again, you can see that trend of how the stream flows have come up and are declining down at this stage. Just on the next slide. So that, as indicated, we did the biological monitoring, or Foresight did it on our behalf. That was undertaken in February. We had discussions with iwi to try and align that to the Maramataka cycle as well. We had some representatives from Waitaha join that sampling. Luke added a comment to the report. But it was pleasing to see this was some of the the species of difference that were found during that survey, which was really interesting. It's good to see some of the species being found. In the report that will be presented next time, there's always a list of the different species and whether they unusually found or depending on where they presented in the monitoring survey. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you. So open to any questions relating to the report.
Quite a good report, actually. But I just want to remind us that it sometimes in the future, if we can get a view in terms of the long-term look, would there be provisions or plannings that needs to be done in terms of water banking and changing to infrastructure like plumbing and all that needs to be taken into our future use of water. That's the the protections of aqua filters and all that sort of stuff. To have some sort of knowledge on it now, rather than wait till it arrives and run around panicking.
I think as an overall concept, and that's probably where the water conservation management plan comes into the consenting arrangement, but I think as TCC we've done quite a lot of work in terms of the demand side of the business, reducing our daily demands on average and peak. That's an ongoing process. Not sure what the future holds, but there's definitely plans in place to think more about the whole of life cycle on water supply.
Can I just say that sometimes you may have to ask the fish, because the fish knows the climate better than we do, and as a consequence their use of the river is more frequent if the river's perfect. If it isn't perfect, then they'll tell us, they'll disappear.
I certainly think that's been one of the good things that we've been able to do with the biological monitoring, because we've been getting a fairly comprehensive trend over the last 10 years.
Baker.
Kia ora. Yeah, hei tapuri atu ki tērā, just to add on to our papa's comment and semi-jumping the gun a little bit. In terms of the order of the agenda, curious to know about the Māori model and how that applies to the monitoring, and whether our position is about, should it come to the state of the water being not in a state of oranga, or in a position of well-being, I suppose. Is our priority the well-being of the river or the servicing of our people? Like how do we actually actively apply the Māori model when stuff hits the fan?
So currently we're busy trying to establish what the Māori model means. So we've been supplying our information into that. I think there's still some cultural aspects that need to be incorporated into that Māori model. But I think it's really, again, establishing a trend to understand what it is telling us and what is changing. There's a whole lot of influences beyond our ability to control that happens upstream, for example, that it would be very useful to get an understanding of. But I think it could provide a comprehensive tool to really monitor the health of the stream. But for me, it's more about what we then do about picking up on those elements that are causing the unhealthiness, if I can call it that. I think overall the stream's in pretty good shape. It's just a case of how we monitor that and how we assess that going into the future. In terms of the water take itself, I don't believe that that's hugely impacting on the well-being of the stream. But that's why we have those monitoring levels in place. We would notify and have a different conversation if we were starting to breach those levels. It's all part, again, of that wider water conservation plan.
And as a part of those conversations around should a rahui be applied to the awa, that our intake stops for that period as well? Are we into that part of the detail yet, or?
That would be beyond something I would be making a decision on, but certainly, it's a case of keeping our executive informed as to stream flows, and then how we manage that with the regional council and with our stakeholder partners.
Are there any further questions? No? Thank you, Peter.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Can I call for a mover and seconder for the report, please? Titled Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group Operations Report. Can I call? Councillor Hota, Drew Baker, seconder. Thank you, Maru.
Is there any specific? It's covered in the questions. Is there any additional feedback you want to give?
Are there any further additional feedback for the report? Yes, Councillor Morris.
Just looking at those numbers there, and I think since the Waiari's been supplying the good people of Papamoa, you can see that there's obviously been more rainfall falling from the sky, the ika and tuna, or a bit more hariko, and all is looking well. I'm not going to say why that is, but you've got to love the good people of Papamoa.
All those in favour say aye. All those
About the
against say
Papamoa
Carl.
thing, or
Carl for the report. But we thank you. Thank you, Councillor Morris. Just adding, there was one other report attached to the operations report, the Waitaha report. I'd just like to acknowledge wherever you are, Luke. Thank you for the report. I look forward to the work that the team are going to be doing. Thank you, Peter. Oh, sorry. Kelvin.
Morena, and it's great being here today. The report I can take as read, but I actually got a PowerPoint slide I'd like to run through, basically because we've got some new councillors on board, and just would nice to give them just a bit of high-level view. Councillor Morris has been on this journey for a few years. Like myself, I was with Western Bay for 15 years, and so, like Peter, we're part of our furniture for the Waiari. I think certainly we last met in this forum last year back in June, and since that time there's a number of positive things that have happened, and part of this report is a streamlined version down, but I make note under point 15 around that the group has decided that we should maybe put a different flavour on the reporting going forward. Our last hui was on the 24th of February, and so we talked about how that structure should look. So for the next meeting, we'll have a different format and a different layout for it. But essentially, the PowerPoint slides I have behind will just run us through a few things. Initially, obviously you're probably well aware of why this report's put together, and it's sort of initially led by TCC, but it's now blended Western Bay into this in more detail. And as you've heard this morning, an update from Chris and Jason on where they're heading. But there's also other components to this, hence why we're here reporting today. Probably just go to the next couple of slides. Just go to the next one. All right. So we've actually got a total of 7 cultural initiatives. We actually had 6, but there's always been a 7th one in the wing. It's got a lot of topical discussion, so we've included in this. as one of those items, and that's the item 7 there around water supply. But I'll touch on each of the areas as we go through. So next slide, please. So in terms of funding, a little bit of an update there. So we currently have money available from TCCI for this year and for the successive 2 years following. And part of that commitment was around this journey is a long journey. It's not a 1 year, it's for a long period of time. And if you're like me, a simple Pākehā that drives down to the Waiari, there's nothing that tells me about a significant culture of that area. Nothing at all. So part of that journey is how do we get from where we are now to where we need to be. And so the initiatives which have been developed by the local iwi hapu give some context around the direction we need to go. And that's been obviously the flavour of the discussion, certainly in the last 6 months has got some real traction. Likewise, Western Bay have funding, as we heard today, for 1.1 million in their budget, and particularly over one particular project, which is part of that starting point of the long journey. From a regional council's perspective, we took note. We tried to get some money out of regional council. Their obviously mandate is to provide support, which is great having Ruben here today. And certainly in kind, they'll help wherever they can in terms of some of these potential projects and things we need to do along the Waiari. Next slide, thanks. So the Māori model, we just talked a little bit about that. I think certainly the model has been developed, but it still needed to have some clear understanding from Tapawika and Waitaha's point of view around how do you get the health of the indicators right to be able to report on the Waiari. So that at the moment is going through some changes, but the model itself is a great tool and one that, you know, from staff perspective we welcome as the alternative to the Western science way that you've heard this morning. So things are happening in that space. It's still progressing along really well, and hopefully for the next meeting we'll be able to give you a more detailed update around where we're at on that. Next slide, please. This slide, obviously, you've heard a little bit this morning from Chris and Jason around that, so I'm not going to dwell on this particular item any longer, but there is certainly a plan of attack and action, 2 things to work through, but like the councillor said, it would be nice for this summer to have something there for those kids to swim going forward. So that's our challenge, to make sure we achieve that. Next slide, please. This is a really interesting one, and one that we've talked about. Part of learning the history of the Waiari is around understanding what it was like 150 years ago. And as Peter alerted to, there's things along the whole Waiari catchment area that have not just been attributed by building a water treatment plant, but there's a lot happening to the cultural land upstream. We know when we have a decent storm event, the consequences of that storm, and we've had a few since that plant's been commissioned. And the debris, the silting that happens and those sorts of things, it's sort of, there is a bigger picture to look at. So, this is one area where we think the ability to be able to put plantings back in. So if we get the history of the storytelling, we understand that there was flax as used to be created there. It's actually around re-establishing those areas again, trying to create what it was like 150 years ago. So there's some real emphasis. We're lucky that we've got some localised young people in the area that have planting experience, so we want to be able to use that talent to be able to put plants in the area. So some good opportunity there to do some really good outcomes. Next slide, please. River access points. So there's 6 access points have been identified. Each one has its merits. Each one has its difficulties. Some of the areas of land are in private ownership, which can be challenging. But at least we have a little bit of a roadmap. The aim was to be able to I suppose, negotiate your way from the bridge all the way up the Waiari. Certain areas would be open for general public. Other areas may be more sensitive and therefore only available to iwi, and some of those things could be around, trying to protect or enhance the Waiari. There may be fish or eels in certain areas. So it's one of those roadmaps that we're still trying to work on, and I think that becomes the big picture to be able to bring back and show us as a group what's planned going forward. And it's around the history. I think that's one of the key things to take on that journey. Next slide, thank you. Regeneration program, again, that is linked. It's around planting some of those areas. There's areas that we're going to be able to get into straight away. We've already identified some plantings that can happen. I think working with Regional Council, there's some areas where we've got upstream that, and working probably with some of those property owners around what can we do to reduce the sediment that's entering the Waiari. That there is, if we as a council did a bit of a survey which was presented to this committee 12, 18 months ago, Peter, which identified, we did a helicopter type view with a drone and flew the Waiari, and it actually pointed out after the major storm event where these significant erosion areas are. So we have that area, just something that just needs to be worked forward with. What can we be put in place to reduce that sediment? But again, some really good opportunities for planting and other things we'll work our way through. Next slide, please. This is the big one, and this is the one that we have done a lot of talking and come up with some really great ideas, but it's one that is a long-term fix around having people involved in the whole process. So we're lucky enough that, say, Luke is one, we had staff involved going out and being part of the monitoring. But it's around developing the experience in the local iwi hapu people who are keen to do that, to actually take them through, right through to the ability to send people through maybe university, working with the Waikato University. So it's a really big field. We want to be able to talk about that more in the coming months, and it's a big ticket item, but we're looking at some of the things that we can get started early on. So some of these cultural initiatives, it'll be nice to take maybe some young people on this journey, but to be part of the whole thing, which will help them through their whole education. Thank you. Next one, please. So this topic is around the availability of water, and as we've heard that water obviously extracted from the Waiari, it goes through a bulk water main and is providing water to areas like Papamoa. There's obviously people that ask why they can't connect to that supply, and so from a technical point of view, bulk supplies are designed not to have small pipes taken off them. They take water from point A to point B. Some of the unknown, of course, is that our infrastructure is very much take the water away in a pipe, whereas Western Bay, who I know very well, have infrastructure providing to houses around the area, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's services at every doorstep for every marae. There's something that both Western Bay have been working on for years, and also TCC, but there are still a few maraes that's sitting out in limbo at the moment, and the issues around how do they get water. So I've probably not articulated it very well, and I'm really happy to let our chair drive or talk about this one, but certainly we've added on there because there is a need for both councils, and we're suggesting it at CEO levels, to meet first to talk about a few of these things. If I look more closely, there's policies that both councils have in place, and those policies talk about the use of water, and there's a whole issue around cost and ability to write off cost of water. But it's something that needs to be discussed at that CEO level and then work its way down from there. But we've added this item because there was a feeling among the iwi hapu membership that it's a topic that's not going to go away, so we've just added it, made sure it's added to this list. Thank you. Next slide, please. So some of the things that that going forward we're focusing on, I've just sort of briefly touched on. Our next report will be a little bit more detailed. I think what we need to be showing the council is that we're actually getting some runs on the ground. We're spending some of that money on, and this is what it's being spent on. And we're very conscious that to date there's been a lot of in-kind work being done at no cost, and we're trying to minimise the use of things like consultants. So a lot of it's being done, again, trying to spend the money where it should be spent in the community. So some of the promising things, we've had discussions around how could we, around the rest area, again, it's some signage that needs to go up, multicultural, both in English and Mahari around, you know, the significance of Waiari would be a good starting point. But then I think there's the whole designing of pose for each of the interest points along the Waiari. And so those discussions, certainly in the last 2 meetings, have really gained some traction. We've brought some extra people in with knowledge of the area. We have some expertise both in filming and I think it's around telling that story even through some videos. So I think, you know, from going forward, I think you'll see a lot more things happening in the next year. I'm really positive about it. And again, it's very hard when you have a change in people. So Rapuni Wilson, who resigned his position with Tapaweka, who was really a great driving force, certainly in the last 6 months, to get things moving along. It's sad to see him go, but I'm very fortunate, and I pointed out our last get-together, we've got some excellent people sitting in the wing, helping out, you know, people like Luke and that, are all of the same mindset, and I think that's the key thing for us going forward to getting some good outcomes is actually driving in that direction. So that's really all from me. I've taken enough time today. If there's anything you want to talk, I'm open to any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Morris. Oh,
I think that the regional council should play a bigger role in it because their authority goes from the mountains to the sea, and not just in one little. And they could, with their support, could even have a influence on the national policy in terms of politics. And so they should. There's a greater role that they should be coming into the mix of things, and it's like Tauranga City Council has got the concept, so they're expected to foot the bill. But I think it's much wider than that. I think there's a responsibility of the Department of Conservation to be included in it, and all those things. Collaboration is a thing that seems to be dotted in the scheme of things, rather than speaking with one voice. That's my opinion. And in terms of the Māori model, it needs to concentrate on the customary practice. There's two things to these planning. That is monetary value and customary value. And monetary value seems to outweigh the customary value. So the Māori model needs to concentrate on the birds, the bees and the trees. And because that's important, and the economic part to that, if you can improve your social, cultural, environmental background. And there might be economic opportunities. Take, for instance, if you're planting trees along the banks, you may grow guavas because there's economic benefit in guavas, and there's also protection of carbon going into the river. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be land set aside simply because there's a reserve, simply because there's no economic benefit in it. I just wanted to raise those issues, and if any other comment to that will.
Councillor Morris.
Kia ora, Te Mana. Matua Maru and I are in the same wavelength, I think. Around Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and they have a lot of different community funding pots, the Environmental Enhancement Fund, etc., etc. I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity for the committee to make an application or support an application to some of those funding putia in order to secure some of these outcomes? Is there an opportunity for us to endorse? We may not write the application or submit the application, but we might be able to endorse it or through our partners.
I'll answer the question of Councillor Morris. So I'm looking at Ruben, because Ruben and I have had some major discussions, and I think it'd be quite good for Ruben to talk about this.
Kia ora koutou. For people who don't know me, I'm Reuben Fraser, and I'm a non-voting rep from Tauranga Paipuni Regional Council on this committee. I think what might be a useful thing for me to do is come back perhaps to the June meeting with a report on the various things that the Regional Council does do in the Waiari catchment, and picking up on your points, Maru, as well, and yours, Councillor Morris. There certainly are opportunities. We've talked about the scholarships and aligning the opportunities for scholarships across the three councils. Obviously, there is funding that goes into planting and riparian restoration work that addresses issues like sedimentation in the river. So I think let's not lose sight of the fact that the funding request that went through the annual plan last time was specifically in relation to this group, but it doesn't address that wide body of work that does happen in the catchment that aligns with, I think, the aspirations of this group. So I'll perhaps come back in June with some more detail around the work that is happening and the other opportunities that this group might want to explore.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Baker.
Kia ora no. So the Waiari water supply for iwi being included into the cultural initiatives, I'm assuming that was unbudgeted when the initial program was put together with the 1.65.
That's correct. Yes, it was. Well, there was no dollars put against that.
And we're confident that the 500k that we're contributing for, I guess, the other 5, considering the bridge is covered by Western Bay effectively, or that kaupapa, that our contribution will be able to fulfil the other 5 at least, because it seems a bit light. We must have some wicked contractors out there doing the work for them.
You're totally correct. I mean, as councillors around this table are well aware, budgets are tight, and finding money for projects is very hard. So we were grateful that we got this across the line. As I made that comment right at the start, this is not a short term, this is a long term journey we're on, and it will require further funding. This gets us underway and gets what I'd call some runs on the board, and actually gets some momentum behind it. I think one of the other things which I've alluded not to say today is that, and Maru Tapsell just mentioned there are other places where you get funding. So we've talked as a group around who else do we reach out to support some of these things. Now, there are organisations who already support the community, and I'm thinking the kiwi fruit industry, and I'm not mentioning names, but there are funding places that would help out with some of these things. And I think once they see the initial ball rolling and we're starting to do some things, it's going to open up other opportunities too. So yes, there's more funding required. There's no question.
Yeah, just probably a little bit misleading a bit, because the report says that the 1.65 granted, it's an estimate, we'll be able to implement the program. Do we, considering it can't from what I'm hearing, do mana whenua have a preference on, assuming worst case scenarios we only have the 500k, a prioritisation of where they want their money spent?
Yes, and that's been the thing as a group, is to figure out what should we try and do first. So that term low-hanging fruit, let's go for some of those things to get underway, and then there'll be a sequence of things to follow. I think what I've had to accept is the fact that, as from an iwi point of view, all 6 cultural initiatives are as important as each other, and so therefore you couldn't necessarily rank them. That's the fun we've had. When I presented that budget out on the marae, and that's going back 2 years ago, I presented it on the day, didn't tell anybody about it, and I went through and I specifically said, look, these are some numbers I've come up with based on a very rough scope at that time. And of course, there was a bit of a shock to see that number, but it was a starting position. And look, it is hard to try and determine when you don't know the total scope. When you do it at a high level, when you break it down, you get understanding. It's like anything, like an engineering design. The more detail you do on it, the better you understand what the scope is, and therefore can price it accordingly. So, yeah.
This is a rogue question that I haven't
discussed with my fellow councillors, so by no means am I implying that we're intending to pursue this, but just as a throwing out an idea, could we ring fence a percentage of the pūtea that we gain from the amazing residents of Papamoa who use this water supply to then invest into the program? Or is the budget, or is what the revenue that we receive from the intake all already allocated? Is there two questions? Am I making sense?
You know, you're making sense. That's definitely a policy question, and in terms of funding, obviously the water rates all go into one pool. So it's something if we want to raise, we'd probably have to go through a process to do that. Yeah. I couldn't comment any more than that.
No, it's
outside of my jurisdiction.
But it's good to know it can happen.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I'd just like to talk about cultural recognition number 7. That cultural recognition was probably on the table first before the other 6, and it seems to be the last one to be dealt with. So in terms of cultural recognition 7, it came about from the fact that when we look at the overall project, it's a mere 1% of that whole project cost that we're actually talking about. And it's actually quite a shock for iwi to realise, I guess, how little we're valued in terms of our mana whenua, and because every day the iwi and hapu of the Waiari, we Kaitiaki, whether we do it personally or we do it our wairua, that our people are always subjected. The members of this forum in the past have been ridiculed as a result of even going to the Environment Court to appeal this whole water take consent. Cultural Recognition 7 really came about because our people don't see a benefit. They don't see a benefit in any of the project, mainly because we were pushed to the side. We did a lot of groundwork pre the tap being turned on, and then once the tap got turned on, our iwi felt isolated in further decisions that we were able to make. I know that, and I don't know who's responsible, and thank you for joining the table because you'll now be at the meeting. The meeting needs to take place with those senior exec staff rather sooner than later. Tangata whenua and the iwi of the Waiari wanted this to happen before Tauranga City Council went into by-election and before Western Bay go into new election. So I know it's noted in the report, but for Tangata Whenua, they actually want to see action. They want this meeting to have taken place last year so that we feel a little bit comfortable going into this election year. And we also want to know who's going to be responsible to set that up. Everyone's getting a little hoha, but we are thankful that we're still at the table to talk and have these discussions. Yes, so it's a big one. It's probably bigger than everyone actually thinks. So I know when it first got put on the table, it was pushed to Western Bay to deal with because the Waiari is in the Western Bay region. It's not just the Waiari. It's not also just Western Bay. This is a joint water take, and our marae and Tauranga Moana are affected by this because we chose to put pipelines that go past our iwi and our marae. So it is actually tangata whenua being instructed basically to have this conversation, to be blunt and to not walk out of the room without a resolution. So looking forward to the hui. thank you, Hautapu, because you're coming to that hui with us. And I guess that you, Claire or Carolyn, one of yous, we look forward to having that meeting.
Now that the item's tabled and sent here, then as the staff member responsible for reporting on this, I will take the uptake to actually get that meeting set up.
Thank you, Carolyn.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll need to make sure that, we'll need to make sure that we've got an agenda item and a short summary before the meeting so that parties that attend have a full understanding of what's being talked about. I was very careful in the words that I've used in my report, but I'm sure there's more to it than that, and I think that probably needs to be provided, Darlene, by you and others as to what you want in the way of discussions to occur.
Madam Chair, can we formally minute or formally resolve around the hui?
Sure.
Like that the committee wants to see that happen? Just trying to think of what the words would be.
Madam Chair, with your indulgence, it
Thank you.
it could be something like that the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group request a meeting with executives from both Tauranga City and Western Bay to discuss the cultural recognition, or words to that effect. That's helpful.
Madam Chair, if that finds favour with you, I'm happy to move that.
It does, except that excuse me, Robin, that regional council should be present, given that it's your role to monitor the consent and their conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Committee Secretary.
Michael, for a seconder, please. Councillor Baker. Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you, Calvin.
So shall I just read
Sure.
that back so that when you vote, you know what that's clear. So that the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group request a meeting with chief executives from Tauranga City, Western Bay of Plenty and Bay of Plenty Regional Council to discuss matters relating to cultural recognition.
Correct. Is there any further? Can I just add to that? There was discussions about the mayors being present at that meeting. The purpose of that was because the Waiari Kaitiaki, or the Waiari joint water take, was a result of a MOU between the two councils. So, Tangata Whenua would like our two governors to be present.
Yep. Could we put that in the resolution, Madam Secretary? My seconder agrees with me. Cool.
And I would also then assume the chair of the regional council as well, or just the two territorial authorities?
I'm open to the views of the committee who they would like to invite from the regional council.
I just know in the past, when we first started, and Councillor Morris will be aware, that Bill Bayfield, he actually signed the written consent. He sat on the committee at the time. So maybe we can have a discussion about who from regional. I'm quite happy with Fiona. But if the committee prefer that the chair is present, then kei a koutou.
If Manawhinu was happy with Fiona, then ki te pai.
Uncle Murray. Would you like the chair of regional council to be present at the hui when we meet, or are you happy for Fiona?
Well, ideally, Fiona to be at the meeting, and an alternative with her.
Uncle Manu?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Fiona being there, but and the alternative be
Okay. I know there's one member on screen. Helen, are you there? No. Okay, so Tapuika agreed.
Yes, yes, I do, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the, if I can just, apologies, so that's the mayors of Tauranga City and Western Bay of Plenty, that the chief executive of Bay of Plenty Regional Council. So it's, okay.
Would you like me to reread it? I can't read your writing.
I can't read my writing. And I'll change that to Hui. Yeah, that, you happy for me to read it, Madam Chair? That the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group request to Hui with the chief executives of Tauranga City, Western Bay of Plenty and Bay of Plenty Regional Councils, and the mayors of Tauranga City and Western Bay of Plenty councils to discuss matters relating to cultural recognition.
You happy, sis? Thank you.
And maybe just in Western Bay pays for lunch.
Pardon?
And Western Bay pays for lunch.
A regional council pays for lunch.
Yeah. As long as it's one of them two, it's good.
I won't note that.
No. Are you still happy to second? To move?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. I'm also whakahihi that for the second day in a row, excuse me, I've put an appointment in Mea Mahi's diary, so that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay. Are there any further discussions or late items that need to be addressed? Councillor Taylor.
I'd just like to thank everybody for having me on the committee for the last two meetings. It's been really, really good. I can see the issues that you maybe have had in the past with the partnership, but rest assured, I think you've got some really good members from TCC that really are keen on partnership and making things happen. So, along with the new Te Awanui ward member who will be the alternate, I think you're in good hands from TCC's point of view going forward.
Thank you. Personally, I'd just like to thank you and Councillor Jen. She was here earlier this morning. Your contributions at the workshop in November, they were gratefully received. Thank you for being present and for your guidance and wise counsel at our last two meetings. Thank you very much. Are there any further discussion of late items?
Just one brief in terms of supports for the marae. I have to remind everybody that there are provisions within the Local Government Act that supports community groups, and the marae is more than a community group, obviously. The marae is a place where you bake farewell to the dead, welcome the living, which is a highly important, put it in a Pākehā sense, essential social service to the wider community. So on those provisions, much consideration should be taken in terms of supplying marae with water as the bottom line.
I'm glad you're going to be at the hui. Any further matters for discussion? Okay, well, lunch is not due till a few minutes away. We don't have any other matters to discuss, but we have, to all our staff and our members, we have lots to discuss. We have some really serious decisions to make in terms of our prioritising of those cultural recognitions. I want to personally thank Chris and Jason for all the work that they've done. Calvin and Peter, they've given us some really wise counsel over the years. They've been pretty hard on us. They haven't been easy. They've told us exactly how it is, and we keep pushing back because that's what we do. Because we just need to see that there are benefits for our people, not just those that are receiving. Some of ours are actually paying rates receiving Waiari water when they drank it because they swam in it when in the younger years. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of work to do. And yeah, we look forward to this year with positive results. Because to be quite honest, we've done the years of walking on eggshells and miri this behaviour, or actually tone down your facials, Darlene. But we are all here for the same purpose, right? To ensure that the Waiari is there forever, and that our people are cared for in this whole process. Because right now, they don't believe that they are getting any benefits other than those that pay rates now in Papamoa, and they moan about it. I must tell you all.
Everyone knows about Papamoa, that's right.
But when you look in the big scale of things, what they're actually asking for is less than 10% of this whole total project. And to be realistic, that's a sad occasion for us as tangata whenua, to continuously be able to sit at this table, and it always just feels like we're begging, and I don't like begging, and I also don't like losing. But we take our losses and we really celebrate our wins as a people. So, yeah. I look forward to the future, hopefully. I'm so pleased that now I don't have to carry this by myself. And welcome back to Tapuika, e hoa, because this is what the project is really about, being amongst your people of Tapuika and Waitaha, with the support of Whakauē and myself, of course, as a mokopuna of Tapuika. There being no further discussions, I would just like our new co-chair to close our hui. We'll wait for our lunch, it's due to arrive. And thank you very much. Thank you all for attending today.
Mauri ore te whare, tautoko ana i o kōrero e whae, mihena kia koutou, kia tātou katoa. Kia hau nei, o te nuinga ko tutuki pai ngā kōrero i ngā hiahia mō tō tātou nei hui, ko te manako, ma te tika, te pono me te aroha, e arahi nei i a tātou, i ngā wiki, i ngā tau, i ngā marama e heke mai nei. Nō reira, ka whakairihia te tapu kia wātea te ara ki mui a tātou, kia tūru ki whakatahai, kia tūru ki whakatahai, haumi e hui e, tai ki e te atua whakapangi nei kai. Amini.
Amen.
When it comes.
I declare that the Waiari Kaitiaki Advisory Group meeting on 12th of March 2025 closed.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.